So, by now, if you haven't heard, um, there is an extremely tragic and unfortunately sensational news item coming out of Nova Scotia today. And that item is a Canadian combat veteran who has apparently shot himself and his and three family members, including his wife and daughter. The media articles that I've seen so far about this have made it very clear that this veteran, Lionel Desmond, was dealing with PTSD. I don't know Lionel Desmond. I don't know what happened to him. I know that he went to war to fight for his country and to fight for beliefs that he held, and he came back changed. And part of that change means he now, well, he was dealing with post traumatic stress. I can't imagine what it's like to be a combat vet. I've been on retreats and I've been on, um, courses with combat vets who've told stories and but have never really been able to convey what it's like to be in a war zone. And I don't think you can unless you actually ever experience it. So I don't know what Lionel Desmond went through overseas. I don't know what his unit went through. But I imagine he saw and heard and experienced and probably did things that most human beings will never have to experience or do. And it changed him. And when he came back, he had demons. And I don't know what his demons were. I don't know what else he was dealing with. I don't know what prompted him to finally take care of his demons today in the most tragic circumstances possible. I don't know what it's like to be at that point. I know what it's like to be at the point when you are standing at the bottom of a very dark chasm, looking up at a very tall mountain where the point of light is at the top, and having that feeling of it would be better if this was done. I can identify with that, but I can't identify with what else he may have been going through that would prompt him to do what he allegedly has done. And I mean, and this is a tragedy, not just on that family level, but on so many levels. His family, his daughter's school, his wife was a newly graduated nurse who was working at the hospital where he sought treatment for his PTS just last week. The ripples of this act spread so far and impacts so many. Now, I'm sure a lot of the media coverage will focus on the fact that he has had PTS, and that's fine. But the discourse and the dialogue about PTS that comes out of this can't be sensationalized. When it's sensationalized, that's when people begin to fear it. PTS doesn't make you a psychopath. PTS doesn't make you homicidal. It doesn't make you shoot up military bases. It doesn't make you kill your family. Nobody will ever know. Well, I shouldn't say that. The public will never know what other mental issues Lionel Desmond had. Nor is it our business, quite frankly. PTS is about trying to regain control of your life, trying to get out of the whirlwind, trying to get out of the hurricane, trying to get some control back. It's not about psychopathy. It's not about being violent. It's not about turning the gun on yourself. Does that happen? Absolutely. That happens in some circumstances that are extreme and where there's so much going on under the surface that unfortunately that's the only inevitable result for that person. But my hope, and in the last year I've gotten the opportunity to deal with the media quite a bit on my book and on PTS. My hope is that the media treats this with some respect and some balance, and it's not sensationalized, PTSD soldier kills family, because that's not the case. He was a soldier who happened to have PTSD who did an unthinkable act. The PTSD doesn't define him, just like it doesn't define myself. It doesn't define any other person in uniform. It's something that we have, not something that we are. And maybe some dialogues will get open about this, and that's great. People in the PTSD advocacy community, love that. But all we ask is that the dialogue be balanced and fair and honest. And if nothing else, I've learned in the last year that being honest about PTS, being honest about what happened to me, being honest about how my life almost fell apart is what strikes a chord with people. And people want reality. People want the truth. Sometimes the truth sucks. And today that truth sucks. The truth is that a combat veteran who struggled with psychological injuries killed himself and apparently killed his family. But maybe this does open up a dialogue. Maybe this does get some people thinking in a way that they hadn't thought before. What I'm hoping, like I said, is that people don't take it as carte blanche to start pointing fingers at PTSD and start fearing it and start shunning people who openly identify as having PTS or another operational stress injury. For some people, this may be a very triggering event, and that's fine. If you are triggered, then hopefully you know what to do. You rely on your support base, you use the tools that you've learned through therapy or through treatment, and you ride it out. That's why we have this network. That's why we are trying to build a community in Canada of people who get it and who are willing to talk and who are willing to share and who are willing to be a shoulder when you need it. Maybe for some people this is a final straw and something about this resonates with you, and this is the last thing that finally pushes you into your own personal version of the tornado. And if that's the case, that's fine too. The important thing is to confront it, not to hide it. I hid it. I tucked it away for 7 years and it damn near killed me. If that's the case and this is something that's impacting you deeply and you are in a position where you think you might be dealing with PTS, then don't let it go. Use it as an opportunity to get some treatment, to get some help, to open up to somebody. Maybe you've never opened up before about. Maybe this is your doorway into it. Maybe around the dinner table, this topic comes up and it provides you with an opportunity to tell someone you love or some buddies you love that you think you're dealing with the same thing. There's no shame in it. The shame comes from the stigma that's put on PTS unfairly by people who don't understand and by people who aren't willing to confront it fairly. If that's the case, if you, or maybe you're just an average regular person who has never been to war, or never been in uniform, or never been affected by a crime or natural disaster, and maybe this just really bugs you. Well, that's good because it should bug you. It should bug anybody who's got a conscience and a heart. Use that as an opportunity to explore some of these issues. Read up on PTSD. Do a little online research, read some blogs. There's lots of good stuff out there about PTS and about people dealing with it and how they get through it. Don't just shut down about it though. Don't just take it as an opportunity to paint everybody with the same brush. Oh, anybody with PTS is a nutcase or dangerous or homicidal or suicidal. People with PTS just are, like I say, a little bit broken, but you know, broken crayons can still color. I guess I just felt motivated to say something about this as somebody who is very open about my own trauma and my own PTS and not afraid to tell the truth or to tell the truth about my own story anyway, and not afraid to talk about it because talking about it is how it will keep getting better. Talking about it is how that stigma will go away. And talking about it is how we will one day start to realize that PTS is something that can be beaten, even if it just means pushing the demons back in the cage, and every now and then they get out and they rattle a little bit. But let's look at this for what it is, an extremely tragic event that will impact a whole community and hopefully offer an opportunity for some open and frank dialogue about something that still impacts far, far too many people in society. And so many people in society who feel that they can't talk about it. The day that anybody who has a psychological injury can stand up and say, hey, I have X, that's the day that we truly start to win the war on all these on these things that are taking such a toll on people. And again, I'm going to be a little selfish here, on people in the emergency services and military community. So, with that, thanks for your time. Like I said, please don't rush to judge. Please don't rush to join the bandwagon if the media begins to sensationalize this. Talk about it rationally, talk about it openly, and don't be afraid to talk about it, because this whole issue of PTS, like I always say, needs to be dragged out of the shadows and into the sunlight. That's how it's going to get better. Thanks.